right, everyone, as you can see, here is the LS2 in this Chevy SSR. These headers, these things are going to be buried in here. This is going to be, well, let's say it's going to be fun. Other side is just as bad, but I mean, I actually feel like I can see most of them. So as you can tell, this is a very, very tight quartered place to work, and hopefully I'll be able to get some wrenches in there and get all these bolts broke loose. I am most likely going to have to pull the tires and wheels off the front and pull the inner fender out to get some access in there. But other than that, this should be pretty straightforward, and I just really hope these OBX headers fit as well as they look. Good morning, everybody. So I've found out that if you pull that expansion tank up out of the way, you do get a little bit better access to plugs and wires and the header bolts and things like that. So probably a good move. I mean, you're definitely gonna have to pull the dipstick tube, and so getting that out of the way gets a lot of real estate for you to work in. I mean, there's a little bit better picture of what we had versus what you did have, basically. So get this out of the way and kind of just pull it back, and it'll just sit there, and you've got a little bit more clearance to get things done. So I removed the expansion tank and kind of pulled it aside. That gives you a whole lot better access to the header bolts that are on there, the dipstick tube, and everything like that. Header is still going to have to drop out from underneath and also come back up when we put the long tubes in. But getting that expansion tank out of the way really did clear up the real estate to allow you to have a lot better access to all the bolts and everything there, and spark plugs and spark plug wires. On the other side, maybe I'll get lucky and this will have some movement and I can get this thing up and out of the way just a little bit. But other than that, though, I mean, you do have a little bit of room in there, but not a whole lot. Okay, so here we are, the passenger side front wheel well. You do have to pull the liner out, you do have to pull the wheel off. Here is the exhaust manifold. That bolt is kind of accessible here, but if you have enough extensions and you pull the front O2 sensor out, you can kind of work a wobble socket and stuff on there. I cannot tell right now if that's a broken exhaust stud. I would assume so. There's a couple broken exhaust studs on this, but I'm gonna get to it. It looks like I broke a plug wire getting that off, but there's access to that bolt right there. Access to that front one right there. I mean, this is just really, really tight quarters. I'm gonna slide up underneath this thing and we'll look at some other stuff. All right. So, other side's off, you know, standard GM 15mm 3-bolt flange. Same right there, that slider flange. This is going to be an extremely tight scenario for this. Get back from my jack stand here. Transmission cross member, just like in the Silverado, is going to have to come down. There are 4 bolts on each side that hold this in, and then there's 2 that you can see those 2 right there. There's 2 that run the length of that. There are 2 15mm bolts in both of the outside holes, and that's what holds your training cross member in place. O2 sensor wires everywhere, those godforsaken stupid Christmas tree clips. Broke the let's see, exhaust flange loose right there, and that goes back to the the rest of the exhaust and the rest of this ride. So that's kind of where I'm at for the night. I'm probably going to get up in the morning and get after it a little bit more. But other than that, I'll just kind of give you a rundown on this dude. One other thing, 4-bolt flange. Looks like that's the 6-wire, but it may be the 8-wire kind of deal. But it doesn't look like the typical Trailblazer SS intake. Looks like the truck intake, but a 4-bolt flange. And this is an E40 computer and everything. So, like I said, I mean, that's where I've got to work. AC lines all through there. Driver's side's got a little bit more accessibility, but it's still, you know, tight, and I will probably end up pulling the wheels and fender liners on that. But other than that, you know, this is what I've got going on today. So we did end up having a broken stud on that rear header bolt. I pictured it earlier. I figured we would. You know, you have about that much hanging out. Luckily, bought this a long time ago when I was working in the oil field because they were on sale, and I have a affinity for tool trucks apparently. And that dude right there worked like a champ. I'm probably going to use this again on the other side. Good morning, everybody. What is going on? I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this audio with my truck, but we have the Silverado out cruising around doing some data logs. Headed to LKQ to find some exhaust manifold bolts for that SSR that I'm doing the long tube headers on. A couple of them were broke going into it. I've got one of them pulled out with that extractor kit I've got. I think there's another one on the other side that's gonna take some finesse to get to, but hopefully it's sticking out outside the head. That way I got something I can grip onto, a pair of vice grips or whatever I need to, maybe even have to weld a nut to it. So also, instead of just wasting a whole trip looking for a handful of bolts, I think I'm gonna try to find a new fog light for the Silverado. A buddy of mine used this truck a couple years back, slid off when it was icy and stuff, and didn't actually do anything to the truck, but it actually ended up breaking the housing the fog light sits in. So try to find one of those if I'm lucky. So far my luck out there has been kind of hit and miss. So anyway, so we'll get some more information on the truck, see what it's doing, and then go roam around the yard and see what we can find. So we'll catch you later. Here's the bonus. We'll make some turbo noises for you. Green lights. Never gets old. So the old salvage yard was a bust. I did find the bolts I was looking for. Found $100 on the ground walking out. Turn that in. I'd have been sick to my stomach if I lost $100. So yeah, I did the right thing. Found $100 on the ground, turned it in. But didn't really find what I needed. Fog lights are kind of a bust out there. I think I may just take that bucket out and see if I can't fix it or something like that. Maybe it's something simple like some epoxy will fix up and everything, keep it from bouncing around. Yeah, pretty much at that place you have to catch it right when it all kicks off, when they bring a brand new piece of equipment in and brand new truck or something, and go pillage for it. I'm still kind of looking for that trim surround. I found a really good one, but it was gray, so do some research, see what kind of paint correction stuff I can come up with. So other than that, I'm heading back to the house, and I'm gonna try to get that Y pipe out of that SSR, then I'm gonna clean up because I have to meet meet the in-laws down in Pauls Valley. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Hopefully we'll have some more stuff to build or tear up or fix or go find. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll push off to the next one. We'll catch y'all later. So what's up, everyone? So I had to add an O2 sensor extender on this SSR because the passenger side header, it was like 4 inches too short, and I just didn't want to put a whole lot of strain on those. So I had some Michigan Motorsports O2 sensor extensions that I had bought previously for the turbo on the Silverado. Actually ordered another set because I couldn't find this one, then I found it, of course. But I had to make some adjustments to it because the connectors aren't exactly right, and I'll show you why. Hang on just a second. So here is the male end from the Michigan Motorsports connector. As you can see, it just has one slot right there. And this is one that comes off the factory GM. So it has two notch slots right there. So what was happening was one slot would fit just fine, the other slot wouldn't. Put them here side by side so you can see. So these won't actually button into the factory O2 sensor connectors. Here's a factory GM one with the 2 slots. I don't think this is the other end of the Michigan Motorsports ones. It actually does not have the second slot in there, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, but just on that one side. I know some of the ways that people can go about getting around putting an O2 sensor extension on this. If I believe the rear O2 sensor from like a C5 Corvette works because it's got a long whip on it. I know a lot of the F-body guys, when they put long tube headers on, that's what they end up going to on those front O2 sensors, so they don't have to use an extension or anything like that. So basically what I did, I just went to my salvage yard on these, hacked off a couple ends, found a couple laying on the ground, which is always a plus. And then I just pulled these ends off and just repinned them into these different connectors, and everything buttoned up great. You know, granted, it's 24 inches of extra whip that I don't really need, so I'm gonna have to secure that and keep that out of the way of getting burned up and whatnot. But other than that, I just kind of want to share that little piece of information. All right, everybody, first startup of the SSR with long tube headers. Doesn't sound half bad. Get her all finished up, buttoned up, and take her for a spin. Here's a drive along with long tube headers. It's got a lot more response to it, and truth be known, this thing doesn't even have a tune on it whatsoever. I'm probably going to get some check engine lights on this, but we'll probably hook the laptop up to it and throw some new stuff on it anyway. But I just kind of want to give you all a little ride along and see what y'all thought. And anyway, I think we're going to wrap this up. I think I'm going to give this thing a bath and give it back to the owner. So y'all guys, I appreciate y'all hanging around, and we'll catch you here in a little bit, and I'll do the follow-up with my thoughts on these headers and the install and everything. So stick around. Cheap labor. Yeah. Cheap labor. Now I get to stay dry while they get to play in the water. All right, everybody. Here is the closing thoughts on the OBX racing headers for an SSR. They fit. This is, I don't know a lot of people that use the OBX in the LS world. Really happy with the way these things came out. These things fit really well. There's a few things I didn't care for about the kit. Mostly was the header to the resonator connector, those 4 bolts with springs. I don't know if that's supposed to have movement or not. I put different bolts in there with locking nuts in there, that way it's all secure and everything. Everything went in really well. The O2 sensor placement was in good places. It literally bolted right in. The hardest part about this whole deal was this is not a very user-friendly install. This is, I'd rate this with like F-body header installs. Didn't have to beat anything in place though, but passenger side header had to go in through the top. It needed just a slight bit of coaxing, but it dropped right in just fine. The driver's side header does come up from underneath, and it has all the room in the world. The hardest part I found about this was getting the plug wires off, getting the plugs out, getting the bolts for the exhaust manifolds and the headers off and back on. It's just extremely tight. There's not a whole lot of room. But like I said, OBX did a really good job on these headers. I actually would be kind of curious to see how well some of their other headers fit for some of the other LS platform vehicles. But like I said, they sound good. They don't drone. They seem to be well put together and everything. Like I said, this is a tougher install, just being that it's tight. Everything's just tight, hard to get to. I had to pull the fender liner out of the passenger side wheels on both sides to kind of get to some things. But all in all, it wasn't terrible. I kind of drug my feet a lot on this. I did have to build an O2 sensor extension, and I've got, you saw that earlier. Like I said, there's O2 sensor extensions, or you can go with like the C5 Corvette rear O2 sensor with the longer whip, and that probably would be fine too. That was pretty much the worst part about it, is from it being a complete direct bolt in. But like I said, I wouldn't hesitate to put those on anybody else's vehicle, especially an SSR. They fit really well. They're a little bit pricey, basically, because I think it's just because nobody does this. I don't know of any SSRs that have long tube headers on them. I could be wrong, but probably in Oklahoma, probably the only one. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching what I had tore up and going for a ride and everything. We got it all washed up. So I'm gonna go drop this thing off, and I'm gonna clean my shop because it is a disaster, and I'm gonna relax for the rest of the day. So like my video, tell me what you think about it, good, bad, or otherwise. Subscribe to the channel. It helps me out, gives me a reason to get more content out. I'm in the process of chasing up some Hydro Boost parts for the Silverado, because I think I want to convert my brakes to Hydro Boost on that. So working on getting that all put together and whatnot. But like I said, give me some likes, give me some love, and I'll see if I can keep finding stuff that keeps people entertained. So y'all have a good one, and we'll catch you next time.